Hello, this tutorial is going to be on node-html-constructor, which is a server-side rendering tool that you can use to run JavaScript in your HTML, repeat things, and eventually there's going to be more, but that's what it does right now. So I am going to show you how it works. First thing we're going to do is create a basic HTML thing, and I'm in Visual Studio Code, which has this thing. So if you do an exclamation point, and hit enter, gives you all of that. So first thing I'm going to enter that is in node-html constructor, I am going to enter in a page title. So all variables that you want to have passed into your HTML need to be in these brackets. They can be in whatever case you like, but they have to be the same, same case. So if you want to do camel case or snake case or whatever, you have that choice, but or just all uppercase, all lowercase, whatever, you have that choice, but it needs to be consistent. Okay, so I'm gonna have a page title, and then I'm going to have some content. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my server, which is a really basic npm server, node server, uses Express. I also have created this variable called template path, which just gets this template HTML using dir name and the template path.resolve, right? And then I have a get everything thing, so no matter what I type in, it'll get. And then I start the server on 5,000. Okay. So first thing we're going to do on the JavaScript end is we are going to import node-html-constructor. You have two different ways of doing it. One is you will always get the same, you will always get version 2 or version 1 or yeah. So they're basically how it's structured is there's a, I'll say require node-html-constructor. You have version 1, you have version 2, and then there's also this HTML constructor thing right here, which will always be the most recent. So I can say const HTML constructor equals that. This is version 2. Or I can say const constructor 1 equals require node HTML constructor dot v1. And basically do that same thing, Control C v. Constructor 2, I don't know what that didn't have an error. That was a repeated constant. Version 2. Okay. Some people don't like this version 1, version 2 thing, but the reason why I still have it is because I don't want to redo a bunch of my personal code. I want to be able to use both constructor 1 and constructor 2 without redoing constructor 1, which after finishing constructor 2 or after getting the basic concept out there, constructor 1 kind of sucks. So whatever. We're going to be using version 2, which is this. They're the same thing. This will always be the most recent, so be careful about using this and then updating. If you use this and then update, it will always have backwards compatibility. If you use this, then update, it may not, depending on what version 3 holds. Okay, so HTML constructor. So now we're going to create a new HTML constructor. We're going to say new const cstr equals new HTML constructor. We're going to pass in an HTML, which can be actual HTML, or it can be a template path, or it can be a path to the HTML itself. Okay, and then I'm going to pass in some options. Ops. Okay. I'm going to say const ops equals, and ops is going to be an object that you pass in. Okay, then I'm going to say cstr.render. And actually I'm going to say const rendered equals that. I'm going to say res send rendered. Shut up. Okay, so now on options, I have two things, page title and content. I'm going to say page title is rec.url.split, or not split, dot slice, and it's going to slice from 1 to rec.url.length. And then I'm also going to do to uppercase. I actually think it needs to be length -1, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Basically what I'm doing is when it says home, this goes to home. That's all that really is saying. Okay, I'm just getting rid of that. Or actually, you know, it'd be a better way to do it. Would be .replace. And I'm going to do a regex, new regexp that g with nothing, to uppercase. All right. Then I'm going to say content. Content is going to be some h1, some HTML. And you can honestly put in whatever you want. Okay, so there's that. And I'm going to send the rendered object. Now I'm going to start my server, npm start. Doink. Started. I'm going to go to here, reload. This is old stuff. And as you can see, it sends the some HTML. It has test up there. This is test. I can do home, and some HTML is rendered. And that is rendered, inspect, as h1. Okay? And I can name that, I can change that to whatever. Okay? One thing that's really cool is you don't need this, all of this information. So I can delete that, actually not all of that. I have to delete that. Sorry about that. And then I'm going to pass in res. Okay? So when you pass in this res object, it will automatically send it when you render it. Just right off the bat, it'll render it. It'll send it as after you render. Okay, so now I reload. I'm using node-mon, just FYI. So that restarted my server. And it reloaded. It works. Okay, and I'm going to show you what happens when I don't send that by, for some reason, my thingy is not working. Okay, I'm going to go to here. Boink, boink. I'm also going to go. My mouse is having some troubles recently. I'm going to do this. I'm going to reload. And hold on a second. Okay. Now, oh my god, mouse, let me do my thing. Now, my server has reloaded. Now when I reload, it, for some reason, is working when it shouldn't be. Control C. Control C. Yes, npm start. Just shouldn't be working. There we go. Yeah. For some reason, node-mon doesn't 100% restart. I don't fully understand why, but whatever. Enter rs. Interesting. Okay. rs. Cool. So, now that thing is not, it's not loading because I didn't pass in that res object. So I have to say res. I also need to put a comma here. Save. Now I reload, and it works. Okay. You can pass in anything you want. Any of these things will be treated as just regular variables that you pass in, unless they have other things. For example, cstr id repeat id, or repeat this thing. Okay. Okay, so this is an element that node-html-constructor reads and will use to repeat things. So I can say repeat number. Actually, no. Pose. I'm going to pass in pose. Okay, I'm going to save that just for now. Basically, if I save, it's saved, and if I load it, it's not going to render anything. It's going to delete the constructor because node.html, if you don't have the variable for this inside of your JavaScript, it will inside of your ops, it will not be read. and that's due to a security policy. That's just due to security, because someone could theoretically pass in information into one of these variables, which could contain another constructor, and if it would automatically read it, then crap would happen, and that's bad. So that's like an injection that this protects from. Okay, so now I have to say repeat this thing. And I'm going to pass in an object, and I'm going to say repeat num, and I'm going to say 5. Okay, so you can pass in an object or an array, and I'll show you what you can do then. So I'm going to say repeat num 5, and I'm going to reload 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So evidently this is a 1 base index. I meant to make that a 0 base index, so I'm going to actually fix it right now. For I equals 1. Ah, there it is. I 0 that. Okay, now it's fixed. Whoopsies. I meant that to be a 0 base index, not a 1 base index. My apologies. So I'm going to go back to here. It's not going to reload unless I do update, which actually, while I'm doing npm update node-html-constructor. Okay, so what just happened was I didn't have to pass in a pose element, but node-html-constructor renders this pose element by itself automatically, right? So anything that you see this underscore and then a variable is what the node-html-constructor reads. The reserved variables right now are sanitize, trust eval, pose, and repeat num. Okay, these are all reserved, and they all have some functionality. This one I'm still trying to figure out, but all of these do have functionality to them. Okay. So when I said repeat this thing, and then I say npm start, now it should be a 0 base index. I guess it's not. I thought I fixed that. I0 less repeat num. What the heck? That was a 0 base index. Oh, because I didn't publish it. Oh, okay. Whatever. Pretend that says 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So what's basically that's happening is it's just going through here and it's saying make a number based on its position. You can put all of this in a single element by saying p and rendering it. Okay, now it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the whole thing, or you can put all of it in the variable here, p 5. Now you have 5 of those. Okay, so and what that would look like here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. Okay, so you can see some what you may think that this isn't very useful, but it, in my opinion, actually it quite is, because you can render schedules really easily by just like doing some math with it. Hold on a second. Let me think about that. There's like if you take this element and multiply it by some sort of time variable, you can do that. So I'm going to show you how to run functions inside of repeats, but after I do eval, what eval is. So I'm actually delete that for now, and we're going to do, my Discord is popping up. Okay, sorry about that. Now, instead of an object, I'm going to show you an array. Okay, and for this, I'm actually going to delete all of this stuff, and I'm going to render it using bootstrap. Okay, so I'm going to delete this. Okay, so bootstrap, you probably know, is a framework that makes things really easy. So page title, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to delete this some HTML thing. My apologies about Discord, it's just freaking out. I'm going to see if I can silence it. You know what, I don't really care that much. All right, so repeat this thing, and then this has to be an array of objects, okay? So in each of those objects, you can have foo, var, greeting, hello world, okay? And you may see kind of what's going on, what I'm about to do. So in this, actually, I'm not going to do it like that. I'm going to say title. I'll use app names, Discord, body, messaging, and server, application, okay? And then I can do something like title, Discord, nope, not Discord, Visual Studio Code. I'll pass in body, text editor, but code styles. Okay, so now in here I'm going to have another one of those repeat things. Okay, so cstr type repeat, and then I have to have an ID equals something, and it's going to repeat this thing. This must line up, must be exactly this. That's how it identifies it. Okay, it searches for these constructors, finds the repeat this thing, and if there's a repeat this thing, it will use it. Okay, so now I'm going to use bootstrap card. I'm going to use default. What am I going to do? Yeah, I'll use default. Okay, I'm going to comment out this for now. Okay, and title, I'm going to replace with title. And then body, I'm going to replace with body. Or text with body. Okay, I save, and I reload. Now you can see it creates cards using this thing. So if I go into here, inspect, you can see I create a card body in Visual Studio Code, text editor, but code styles, and then I do another card. I'm backwards, but Discord, messaging, and server application. Pretty cool. So that makes it very simple to render HTML in repeats, which if you need to have like 300 cards and all of that information is stored in like a database or a JSON file, and you don't want to convert that into HTML manually and have like a static HTML file, or if you don't want to have it a client-side rendering, and you want it to be server-side rendering because it's easier on the client, you can do that. That's easier. It's your choice, your prerogative. Okay, so that's what that does. You can also have what are called evaluations, and so I'm going to explain what that is. Okay, I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to say cstr id eval this thing. Okay, and it has to have cstr type equals eval. Okay, and eval runs JavaScript, so I can say if true, and I'm going to return hello world, and I'm actually going to return h1 hello world. Okay, and that's a little bit weird. It has that new line. I'm going to do this just in case. So now it's rendering new line stuff, and that's just my formatter being as formatter. It's thinking that that isn't a part of it. So I reload, and notice how that thing is gone. Well, again, I have to copy and paste this into here. And if you just want to evaluate it, you're going to say eval this thing equals true. As long as it isn't undefined, it can be whatever you want. Okay? So I am going to reload. Apologies again about Discord. Invalid or unexpected token. Have I made a mistake? Eval this thing. Oh, save. Oops. Now I'm going to reload. There we go. Now it has hello world. I just forgot to reload. My apologies. Okay. I have hello world and an h1. Okay, if you have a formatter and you don't like what that's doing, you can replace all of this. I'm going to replace all of this with a script tag. You can do that too. Now I can get rid of this new line, save. Okay, fine, I guess it's doing that. I'm going to save that. I'm going to reload this, and notice how it still works, still does the exact same thing. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Say you want to pass in information from here into here. So how would you do that? Well, I could say template string cstr.greeting. Okay, now I'm going to say copy, paste. If there is a constructor.greeting, render constructor.greeting. So constructor is whatever you pass in. Right now, constructor is true. Okay, so whatever this is equal to is going to be the CSTR value when inside of this script. Okay, so I can go into here, and actually I can just say hello and remove this constructor greeting. If constructor, then render constructor. Now I'm going to reload, and it should just say hello. Yay. But if you want to pass in an object, you can, and say greeting, hello world. I can say constructor.greeting. My friend is building another program and helping me out with something, so he's been messaging me about that. That's why that's going off. And I don't care enough to mute it. Okay, save. Now I reload. I'll say hello world. Okay, so this is passing in information from your JavaScript into your HTML really easily, as if it were a string. I'm sorry, not a string, as if it were JavaScript, which, I mean, technically it is, but you can change this to be, you can change this to be CSTR, and it will still work. Reload. Okay, still says hello world. Now if I change this into like div, it'll be like, what? And I'll be kind of confused. So that's kind of the that's just, you have to remember it's CSTR or script. Both of them will work. And if you're using a formatter, I recommend using script. Both of them will work. Okay. So now you can use this inside of a repeat. Okay. So say you want to have, actually I'm going to undo that. I'm going to say CSTR. I don't need to give it an ID, but I can say, I have to say CSTR type equal eval. The reason why I have to have this CSTR type instead of just type is because if I put type equals CSTR or something, and I go into here, I start typing code, my formatter is like, I don't get what that is, okay? So that's why you have to put in CSTR type. So it's not rendering type for that, okay? So if, I'm now going to say if CSTR.image, I'm actually going to change that to script. If CSTR.image, then I'm going to render all of this. Control X, Control V, and my source is going to be in a template string CSTR.image. Okay. Now, I don't have to pass in an ID. I don't have to pass in an ID because it is in a repeat this thing. That's just some choice that I made, but I do have to pass in something else, and there is a reason for that. So I'm going to say I have found an image online that I think is gorgeous and it's absolutely beautiful. So, and it is this bad boy. Okay, and I'm going to say body, and I'm only want to pass it in for one. So image is going to be that. Oops, can't have a semicolon. So the image I want to use is this thing, and I think it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a beautiful tree, and it's very well done. Props to the photographer. Anyway, so what this is basically doing is if there is an image in the constructor, which is this thing, okay? If there's an image in the constructor, then return this whole thing and put image inside of there. And I'm gonna get rid of this alt because it's not necessary. So now I'm gonna save and reload, and it should have an image. Oh wait, no it doesn't. That's disappointing. Well, it's because theoretically someone could inject their own code into here if you have like information set in a variable. And if you don't want them to inject a script that is run on the server, because theoretically they could say res.send this, and then you have to put in trust eval true, set it to true. They could theoretically put in that, and then it'll create errors. They can intentionally create errors. I guess it's not rendering res.send because I think res is not fully defined, and it's just kind of weird. So anyway, it's better to have it's just better to have something where it's like, okay, I trust the evaluation. I trust running JavaScript on this. I would not recommend running JavaScript on any information passed, on any information that a user can implement. Inject. But I am working on it. I'm trying to fix it. You can pass in. You will eventually be able to pass in sanitize and set it to true. And what this function will do, what this will do, is it will sanitize all of these variables and remove all scripts, remove all everything, and remove all injections so that it won't render the HTML poorly, the way you don't specifically want it to do. Okay, so that is a very important thing that I am working on implementing, but it's not 100% implemented right now. Okay, so now I have trust eval equals true, and then I am going to reload, and we have this tree. And isn't that a gorgeous tree? I mean, look at that. That is just spot on. Although the detail isn't quite as good as this. Well, I guess it is. Whatever. But there's your tree, and it works, okay? So, HTML constructor right now is pretty simple, but really it can do, theoretically, it can do a lot because of its simplicity, okay? Passing in variables, passing in variables into your scripts that are run on the server, and then passing in variables into a repeat thing. You can do all sorts of cool things with that, like creating nav bars based on the user's like roles or something like that. If they're not an admin, they can't see the admin page. They also wouldn't be able to access the admin HTML, hopefully, but it wouldn't be visible on that. And so you can have a single index.html or a template.html file that could be completely flexible and dynamic based on like the user's conditions, or based on some conditions that the user has, right? So theoretically, you can do whatever you want, and it won't just be all in JavaScript on your freaking server side, or even in routers and all of that stuff. You can put that in your scripts here, and it will render it, okay? And I feel like this makes your code cleaner, and that's kind of the point. Also, this is just kind of pretty. It's kind of cool looking. I recognize that there are other packages that do this, like EJS, which looks kind of like this, and you have like that, and you can run JavaScript or insert stuff into here, and it's kind of it works, but the problem that I have with it is thing.ejs. You have to have an EJS file, okay? You can have HTML, but I don't fully remember how it works. Maybe it's not that. The $sign. I don't remember the tokens. I think it's just kind of weird. Maybe it's this. I don't know. In my opinion, it's just kind of weird, and also from what when I've worked on it, you have to have a very specific file structure, and it's only multi-plate page application, and it forces your thing to reload every single time, and I find it kind of annoying, but it kind of does a similar thing to this. You also have React, but that is 100% client side, and I understand it to a certain level. However, I personally struggle with it, and so I've created this, which in my opinion is very simple, and it can do. I want it to eventually be able to do React, but server, okay, which I recognize as a daunting, long, giant thing because React was basically built by Facebook. So, and I'm just a first-year programmer, but whatever. Okay, so I created this, and I think it's clean and nice, and does all sorts of fun stuff. So, yeah, I don't really have anything else. That is node-html-constructor. Again, how to import. If you have this deconstruction type of method, it will it'll bring in the newest version. But if you do const cstr, or it can be whatever equals require node html-constructor.v1. This will be version 1, which is a little bit different. Okay, so if I look at version 1, I can view version 1, and basically, like, you have to pass in a replace array or a repeat object and if conditions and sanitize, and it's honestly, I think it's kind of bad, but some of my code works on it. HTML constructor has basically less than 200 lines of code, and it's very simple. So it was very easy to do. So here's how module.exports look like. You have version 1, which is version 1, version 2, which is version 2, and then HTML constructor will always be the most recent version, which right now is version 2. Okay? So yeah, that is how my code works. You can run both versions simultaneously, and that's what I'm going to be doing on my server, on my websites that I'm building. And so then I don't have to redo old code. But anyway, I hope this is helpful for you, and take care.